Hi, this is Mr. Hood, and we're going to look at 3 different ways you can use to add negative numbers. So let's look at that first example, negative 3 plus 9. One method you can use is by using counters. So we're going to start by modeling that negative 3 with 3 negative counters. Then we're going to model that second integer of positive 9 with 9 positive counters. You may notice that we have 3 of what we call in math zero pairs. That is, a negative 1 paired with a positive 1. And when you pair a negative 1 with a positive 1, the sum is 0. So in essence, we can cancel them. So what's left? Well, what's left are 6 positive counters, so it must be that negative 3 plus 9 is positive 6. Let's look at example 2. We're going to model that first value of 2 with 2 positive counters. And then we're going to model that second value of negative 7 with 7 negative counters. We're going to cancel our zero pairs and then examine what's left. Well, what's left are 5 negative counters, so it must be that the answer is negative 5. Let's look at example 3. Again, let's start by modeling the first integer with counters. And then we're going to model that second integer of negative 4 with 4 more negative counters. And in this case, there are no zero pairs to cancel, so just add them up. And since we have 10 negative counters there, it must be that negative 6 plus negative 4 is negative 10. Now, we can also find the answers to problems like this on a number line. So let's look at that first example again. If we were to find the solution to negative 3 plus 9 on a number line, we would start at 0 and then ask ourselves, what is that first integer telling us to do? Well, what it's telling us to do is move 3 backwards. So let's do it. What that second integer of positive 9 is telling us to do is now move 9 forward. So where did we end up? We ended up at positive 6. In example 2, again we're going to start at 0. We're going to model what the first integer tells us to do, and since it's a positive 2, let's move 2 forward. And then we're going to model what the second integer is telling us to do, which is to move 7 backwards. So let's do it. And if you could see it, you would see that we landed on negative 5. Last one. Let's model that first integer of negative 6 by starting at 0 and then moving 6 backwards. And now let's model the second integer of negative 4 by moving 4 more backwards. And as you can see, we landed on negative 10. Okay, as you can imagine, this method might not work so well if we have really, really large numbers. So we're going to have to come up with some rules. So let's look again at example A. Rule number 1, are the signs same or different? Well, clearly they're different. So when the signs are different, we're going to subtract the absolute values. What that means is we're going to strip the signs from each number and then just subtract. So 9 minus 3 is 6. That means the number part of our answer is going to be 6. Step 2. Now we're going to steal the sign that lives in front of the bigger absolute value. Well, in this case, the bigger absolute value is positive 9, and since it's positive, that means the answer is going to be positive as well. Let's look at example B. Are the signs same or different? Well, again, they're different. So we're going to subtract the absolute values. So strip the signs from each number, subtract 7 minus 2, and we're going to get 5. Now to determine the sign of the answer, we're going to steal the sign that lives in front of the bigger absolute value. Well, the bigger absolute value is negative 7, so that means the answer is going to be negative as well. Last one. Are the signs same or different? Well, in this case, they're the same. So this means we're going to add the absolute values. So we're going to strip the signs from each number, add them together. We're going to get an answer of 10. And then to determine the sign of the answer, we're going to steal the sign that lives in front of the bigger absolute value. Well, since the bigger absolute value in this case is negative 6, the answer is going to be negative 10.